All righty. Anyway, should we get to the wrestling on the television?
The wrestling on the television. They've been saying that for about 70 years now.
Well, and it's about time we got to it then.
This show's been going on like 70 years now. Yeah, I agree.
What this particular podcast? You
That's
are.
right.
It seems like. Well, I can't hear you, Sonny. Can you speak up? Good Lord, this is this is going to throw my equilibrium off. Only being able to hear in one side of my head, one ear of my head. An ear is that a phrase? An ear of your head?
Keep going. This is going well.
Well, I'm just trying to explain that that's why I'm verklempt, as Howard Finkel would say, because I can only hear in one side of my head.
All right. Well, let's use both sides of your head and your left and right turn indicators, and let's talk about the wrestling on TV.
Yes, Smackdown, October 25th. See, I went off microphone and actually sneezed. You didn't even know that was happening. On October 25th, they were in Brooklyn, New York. That's up around your neck of the woods.
Indeed.
Was this the Barclays Center I've heard so much about?
It was indeed the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, yes.
And they had 12,000 or more, I believe they claimed. Do we have any reason to doubt them these days? They pretty much are doing these type of crowds.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can get them, but usually they do really well in New York, and they're really hot right now. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that
it looked pretty good. Just so when we get to your show later on this week, we can talk about Tony Khan's very, very bad week. Cedar Rapids. Anyway, on SmackDown, they did the thing where everybody walked in, and then Orton came and into Gorilla, and basically, where we left it last week was that he's going to have to go over Nick Aldis's head, because Aldis can't make the match between Orton and Kevin Owens. So Orton goes to the ring, makes a big entrance, and he says he's been trying to get Owens, but for some reason he's off limits. So Triple H, come on down. You're the next contestant on Can They Talk Us to Death? He says, if I didn't know better, I would say that you're protecting Kevin Owens. And then they play Triple H's music, and out he comes as an executive. I want if they ever do something with Nick Khan, you think they'll give him music, Brian?
No. I can't imagine him coming out unless it's like just generic WWE music, or
I think they got to give him a theme song.
Like every few years, a random babyface would get the theme music to the Young Stallions.
No, what about no? They can license music now. They can spend money. What about "Don't Call Us, We'll Call You" by Sugarloaf? That would be perfect. Think about the lyrics.
Really?
Think about the lyrics. Anyway, so here comes Triple H, and he didn't want to do this in public, but since you never show up to work on time, Randy, I'm not protecting anybody. I'm doing my job. And Randy persists in this line of discussion with Triple H, where Triple H trying to say, look, the match isn't going to happen. No, it's blah, 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 blah. And finally they get hotter. You're protecting Kevin Owens. And Triple H says, I'm not protecting Kevin Owens. I'm protecting you. And did you feel like that the people particularly were worried about when they did that big revelation, right? Was anybody worried about Orton in this situation?
On the face of it, no, probably. But that's why Triple H had to explain it. And to the best of whatever he said here.
Well, I know, but I'm thinking that because it didn't seem like they were more like, "Ooh, how dare you say that to him?" Right? Then it seemed like I'd like to see Orton and Triple H after that more than I want to see Orton and Owens. Anyway, Triple H says Owens has always been about business and he's got no friends, but he trusted you and Cody and he let his guard down. He liked and trusted you guys, and he thinks you turned on him. So we're almost going into the At least they're doing it in a professional way, but we're almost going into the whose friends are you that AEW's been doing for 5 years. Do you think they're starting to do their own shit just to and draw with it just to show AEW up?
I don't know. I mean, it's not exactly the, you were my friend. I want you to be my friend. I wanted a hug. You didn't hug me. Whatever the hell's going on over there. The idea that Owens is saying to Triple H, the boss, that Cody and Randy turned on him. It kind of gives him a little bit of a nutty edge right now, because how the hell did they turn on him?
A nutty edge. It sounds like you've been to a wine tasting, and it has a hint of garlic and a nutty finish.
With him, it's a hint of mildew.
Yeah, you still get a nutty finish though. But anyway, so Triple H is saying he's not the same guy. And I don't want to put him in the ring with you because you've been out for 18 months with your bad back and you've come back and I just got you back and I don't want to lose you. And again, I'm thinking, God, there's Randy Orton is 6 foot. It looks like he's grown taller too, but 6'3", 4, 280, jacked. And there's fucking Owens, not as tubby as he used to be, but there's Owens, right? If you left pudding sitting out in the sun, it might form in the same shape as his physique.
Yeah, because of Orton's height, he's one of the more physically imposing guys on the roster.
So, but maybe they think, well, Owens could potentially bring in a hand grenade or run him over with some type of SUV. But anyway, Orton said, hey, I didn't ask for Paul Levesque. I asked for Triple H, the game. What would you do? And then Orton makes the big pitch, the big sales pitch, give it to me. And the people want it. And actually this was done excellently. If you accept a preposterous premise, that was very alliterative in that once they started, Orton made the pitch and Triple H is thinking about it and the crowd is cheering, let them fight, let them fight. And the way that they built this, they got the people into the idea of Orton versus Owens more by the time they finished this thing than they probably would have been beforehand. And finally, Triple H says, I hope to God you know what you're asking for because you've got it. Protect yourself at all times. Like fucking Owens is Mike Tyson.
Yeah, because he said there during the thing, he's like, when he came here, he wanted to be called a prize fighter.
A prize.
And all I'm thinking is, did anyone say you're not a prize fighter? You're not in any respect of the word a prize fighter.
Well, the thing is, that's so ironic because Kevin Owens, whether you like him or not, and this is not even an insult to people, depending on your mode of thinking, Kevin Steen was one of the more indie-minded guys that ever got onto that roster. And so the idea that he's only about business and not he's the guy who was trying to talk me into letting a motherfucker dive off the balcony on him, in front of 600 people. So the idea that he's only about, Orton's the one that's all about business and getting the most out of the least, prolonging the career, making the most money, selling the most tickets, having the little things of the art. He's the one that's about business. He's the prize fighter. Owens would do this with fucking Sami Zayn in a goddamn flatbed truck moving down the highway just for fun.
He's not the prize fighter, he's the booker fighter.
But that's not a slight at Booker T for anybody who just wandered in this place accidentally and is not with it.
And it's not a shot at Hunter, and I don't mean this Hunter. I mean the other Hunter that was booking.
The Booker Hunter. Anyway, so that was good. What are your thoughts on that being okay and or good?
I thought it was all right. It was a good wrestling segment on the show in between the matches that, for the most part, most people probably aren't really invested in. But who knows? Actually, I'm not. I know that.
Well, no,
I like these kind of segments.
And that's the thing is that you wait for the.
I don't know about doing the match at Saudi Arabia. That's probably my biggest problem with the whole thing.
Well, I guess they're loading Saudi Arabia up more. Saudi Arabia up. Arabia up. They're loading up the card in Saudi Arabia more than we thought they might for a sold show. But then again, they sold it for $50 million fucking dollars. So I guess, let them drop the cow over there. But anyway, that's where I was going with this program here that we're discussing is that's the thing. It's kind of like the bookends of the first hour is the big talking segments, and then you get the main event with usually the main event people fighting each other in an unauthorized fashion at the end of the show, and the rest of the stuff in the middle is kind of to be in the middle of it. Such as Andrade and Carmelo with LA Knight as referee, and they're tied 3-3, and we haven't gone into detail on any of them, so we ain't going to go into detail on this one.
Let me just say one thing about it. I've enjoyed some of their stuff, some of their matches. When I say some of the ones I've actually watched, this was the worst finish I've ever seen on one of these matches. I don't care how over LA Knight is. There's no excuse for this finish.
Well,
this was the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever seen. Everyone's invested into 7 matches, and this is how it ends?
That's the thing, is that this was not, who was it, Magnum TA and Nikita Koloff U.S. title best of 7 or whatever. This was 6 previously technically fine wrestling matches between a couple people that I ain't particularly fucking interested in, right? And now, and again, and for whatever reason, LA Knight has been intertwined with these two, which it's got to, sooner or later, it's going to affect LA Knight's over if he doesn't work with people that are over. I don't know why he's, being asked to be drugged through the fucking, the salad bar here. But anyway, the finish of which you speak, oh great Brian Last, is, what was it? How did they hit? Carmelo hit LA Knight with a super kick when he was trying to hit Andrade, because they did kind of a tipsy-turvy thing. And LA Knight goes to the floor, and Carmelo hits something sloppy and covers the guy, and then LA Knight pulls Carmelo off the cover and throws him over the fucking announce desk. And then Andrade gets mad at LA Knight, and LA Knight gives him the BFT. And here comes Carmelo, and he gives him the BFT. And then he goes down and rings the bell and cuts the promo and declares himself the winner. And
of the best of 7.
And then, and now here's the thing. I love the deal for the finish of a match and of course, then LA Knight leaves, and in the back, Nick Aldis tells, well, it's going to be a triple threat match at Crown Jewel. So great. Again, now he's stuck in with these 2 fucking schmoes. And, and it's a 3-way match that is never any good anyway, so now it's going to be worse. But nevertheless, for just a TV match, if they were building to a 3-way already, that was a cute finish. And because he's the biggest star, I don't mind him beating up both of them and just doing that, because we're going to keep the fucking guy over. But as you said, Brian, for a best of 7 series, where for the people who have liked that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing those people have liked. They've sat through this for 6 fucking weeks, and now week 7, and this is what they got, right? And oh, by the way, they're going to have a triple threat. Well, then do they still have winning the triple threat is not the same as beating this other guy. So you've gone this far. It's like kissing your sister and she's not even topless. A draw, 3-3.
Well, I don't know what the hell that means, but.
Well, you never heard that old expression?
I have not heard that old expression, no. Where'd you hear that? Give me a name.
Everybody used to say it down around the schoolyard.
This finish was astoundingly awful. The idea that the babyface referee declares himself the winner, even some of the fans there, like some of them popping, you could see them like, what? What are we popping for?
Well, but which one of these other
Like, it's a bunch
schmoes
of
is
shit.
supposed to be the babyface anyway?
Well, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you about that, but someone has to win the fucking match. You can't have the referee announce that he's the winner.
Well, God, who would know better than him? He knows all the rules.
That's a dangerous precedent. Can other referees do that? Just stand on the commentator's desk and announce they won the match?
Hey, I guarantee you, if it was possible for a referee to win a match and he wasn't wrestling, Thomas Marlin in the Tennessee territory would have found a way to fucking do it in 1972. But yeah, that's what's happening now at the Crown Jewel. Boy, do you think those guys in those fucking tuxedos and goddamn Mr. Bones outfits are carrying that giant case with that massive fucking trophy style belt that for the Crown Jewel champ? They're going to be happy when this thing is over with and they don't have to lug that thing in and out of elevators, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they're making a big deal out of it. They're showing the class that they're showing this title as opposed to all the other titles that are thrown in bags and the bags are thrown around and everything. So they're really paying attention to this.
Well, they've gone from, once again, like you said, sometimes they're just popped in a bag and thrown in your bag, but they've gone from that to handling it like it's a Fabergé egg. I mean, who's going to wear that thing, by the way? Are they going to have to hydraulically support whoever wins it to put it around their waist for a picture?
Do you have to use it again after the pay-per-view? Or is it just you win it at the pay-per-view, you send it home?
Well, I don't know.
They both already have titles. I mean, it's not like a rock thing.
As a fucking rib, they ought to say, oh, you got to take it with you. You know, you got to have it on TV. You got to show everybody what you got, right? They did that to Roger Smith and Donnie Bass in Memphis in 1983. They made the Assassins World Tag Team Champions, but they didn't have a set of belts handy, so they had these giant 6-foot fucking trophies. And I think Donnie had to carry them around most of the time, but they'd be sticking out the window of his fucking backseat of his fucking car, these 6-foot fucking trophies. And then they dropped them to the Fabs, and the Fabs, they just left them somewhere, so they wouldn't have to carry them around. And then they had Naomi versus Candy LaRue. Your thoughts?
No thoughts. Didn't watch.
Okie dokie. So now it was the time for the time. It was the time. So now it was time for the 9 o'clock hour, the bewitching hour, to strike for Cody to make his entrance. And he came out to the ring and he was ready for all the people to go, whoa! When Gunther's music interrupted it and they didn't get their whoa. And out came Gunther. So now they can just, Cody can just walk out to the ring and fuck it, they've seen enough of him. Let's send Gunther out there. And they do the promo. And again, that belt is gigantic and ugly to me. It's too much. It's too large. It's too, whatever the fuck it is, it's too. What do you think? You're an old belt aficionado. Is that too much of a good thing?
Yeah, maybe the Saudis requested green. I really don't know.
But I mean, besides the green,
it's a gigantic eyesore.
Yeah, you'd have to be 6'5" to fucking put it on and then not cover up your chin and your nuts. So anyway, Gunther says, so Cody, what do you want to talk about? And Cody says, it's obvious. Why do you think you're going to leave Crown Jewel as champion? And Gunther says, well, let's talk about you first. And then it got long. And I mean, you know, Cody was born a small black child in a log cabin. And it was a long story that Gunther was telling. He won WrestleMania for the legacy of Dusty. He said, hey, give me the Cena schedule. Cody, you always make things more dramatic than they are, said Mr. Pot to Mr. Kettle. But all Gunther wants to win the thing for is to live up to himself and the magnitude of him, right? But Cody, what's your real reason why? And then Cody, well, that's the dumbest question anybody ever asked me. And he went into a dissertation, and I wrote, they're speaking well and saying nothing of note. Cody put the fans over, gave them their woe, talked about how much harder he works than Gunther. And they put in the time. It's going to be a big match in Saudi Arabia and on Peacock. And so they put the time in to talk about it. And then Gunther said Cody was gutless, and Cody said, well, I've got the guts to take the first shot, and boom, and they had a fight. And Kaiser came in and they beat up Cody. And then Orton came in and the heels bailed. And then Orton picked the belt up and handed it to Cody. So I didn't feel the earth move under my feet. I didn't see the sky tumbling down, but they spoke well, but they said nothing. What do you think?
I mean, it was all right. I think Gunther's really good in these situations. I think Cody's going to talk himself into being booed pretty soon. He's not talking at the level that he's talking above people, but not in a real way.
He's starting to get too fancy.
And there's no reason to. And this is what happened in AEW. And I said it early on. He's gonna turn himself heel without turning heel, because the fans, it's gonna be impossible to cheer for him. And there are more restraints. There are better controls here for booking than AEW. However, at some point, if he keeps talking like this and not connecting, while there are people like Roman Reigns that people are really getting behind, he's going to have a problem to be a top babyface.
Well, and
Bob Backlund.
Yeah, well, oh, good Lord. I don't think that far, but I can see what you're saying is that it's kind of like an oral, verbal version of, just because you can do all those moves doesn't mean you should. Just because he knows a lot of these words doesn't mean he should use them, does it? Sometimes.
It's not just the words, it's the way he delivers them. It's his body mannerisms. It feels very practiced. If you watch him, it seems like a guy who did this promo in the mirror. Gunther doesn't have that. Gunther seems like a smartass who's out there willing to say anything, even if it's in like the WWE way. Cody seems rehearsed, and he's speaking unnaturally. He's going to be a well-dressed Moxley if he keeps saying nothing.
Oh, I don't think it's gone that far, but Gunther, and plus it works for Gunther that English is his second language, because he's allowed to, misspeak a little bit, and it's part of the charm, right? With Cody, he is being a bit, as you said, polished. It's almost like, my name is Rhodes, Cody Rhodes. Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, that's what went on there. But then, big news. Brian, big news. They were shaking some stuff up. What I thought was going to be kind of okay, Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin match with Tommaso Ciampa and our friend old Johnny Sameface turned into a pretty goddamn rabble-rousing angle, did it not, over the course that you didn't really see coming?
I asked you when the Motor City Machine Guns made their debut and they got a big pop, and obviously a lot of fans were really interested in them coming to WWE. I said, what does this say about the way WWE sees tag teams right now, and how is this different than what they've done before? And here we are, week 2, and they've really done something where, again, they didn't win the titles without help, but still, it's the titles from the main event heels. I mean, they've done more with the Motor City Machine Guns than any other tag team that's come in a long time that I can remember.
Well, and part of it is again, as Abdullah the Butcher used to say, timing is everything. When the time is right, Shelley and Saban have showed up. Boy, that's a lot of S's. But they've showed up at a time where, yes, not only is competition in the tag team field somewhat lackluster, and even though that they're challenged size-wise, that's not as big of a drawback as it used to be 15 years ago, and they're in tremendous shape, so they don't just look like children, but also the time that they've come into this thing, because it's brilliant the way that they've woven them in, where the Bloodline cost Jey Uso his title, so Jey was able to immediately turn around and cost the Bloodline a title. And at the same time, the only people that need to get beat was the Tongas, because we've established that's who you need to beat in that group. And it ties into the main event angle, and it gave them a tremendous boost. Again, this is booking that benefits multiple participants in it and in multiple stories. This is not Shelley and Saban, I don't think, are now, maybe they will be with the Tongas programmed regularly, but it's not like they're going to be members of the team in the War Games or whatever the fuck, the Survivor Series, whatever's coming up, where there's going to be multiple men teams.
They just got the rub.
But they got the rub, and they got involved, and they can work now with the Tongas, who can also be involved with the other guys of the other bloodline and the blah, blah, blah. So, again, this is shit that Watts or Dusty used to do, where you had multiple programs where you could book a match between two entities, and it was already, you'd done something on television to make something out of it. However, I would still love to watch Ciampa work sometime on television without this garden gnome partner of his. But anyway, in the tag team match against Shelley and Saban, they've been together for so long, and they actually became a tag team and trained and were trained when people followed the rules, so they know how to do it. Like they did a blind tag correctly, hand to hand on a headlock shoot off behind the guy's back perfectly. And then Gargano and Ciampa do 1 minute afterwards is completely fucking wrong and illegal. The back slap, right? So it's that 5-year gap or whatever in the middle of these guys' generations, that makes the difference between whether they do it right and whether they give a shit whether they do it right or not. And anyway, they had a match that I liked. Shelley and Saban's teamwork, it felt very rushed, and I think it probably was. They were probably trying to do maybe a few too many things in this segment because they were, had to save time for the end, obviously. But it didn't seem like that they didn't have a long set of heat and then a big comeback. They didn't really take time with this. They run through some stuff. And finally, they hit old Johnny with the neck breaker and splash off the top combination 1, 2, 3. And, again, it was rushed, and there's no really clear heel babyface dynamic here, but they looked very good. And then shit started to happen. But before we talk about that, Brian, any comments on the business so far?
No, they look good, and the fans seem into them so far. And they've been used well. They haven't been made to look like fools yet. So far, so good.
They haven't had time to do that yet, but we still can have faith. No, but no, I think they might be going to do it right, because at this point, boom, they play the music, and here comes the Bloodline. And they go to the break on that because you're thinking, what's going to happen? So when they come back from the break, the Motor City Machine Guns are still in the ring, but now Nick Aldis is there and the Bloodline's there, and the fans are chanting OTC, OTC. And by the way, there's a pest control company around here, and I see their trucks go by with a OTC and a dead bug. But anyway, the fans are booing the shit out of Solo. And when he tells them to acknowledge him, they boo him even more. But here's where obviously the Tongas are the tag team champions. That Shelley and Sabin had won this match. They've won the shot at a tag team title match anytime, whatever. But here they gave Shelley and Sabin an interview, but I would assume at this stage of the game that they weren't just going into business for themselves on what they said and that they were requested to say this, but to me, it was too heelish and it made them come off as, if people want to say, you fucking idiot, to the baby faces. When Sabin talked and just confidently said, well, let me introduce, we're the Motor City Machine Guns, and now we're the #1 contenders, and anytime that you're ready to hand the belts over to us, we'll face you anytime, any place, anywhere. And that turned it to me to the psychology of the goofy little job guy heel, almost saying that to the baby face. Do you see what I'm saying?
Not really, actually.
Would it have been better if Shelley and Sabin, either one, had said, we're the Motor City Machine Guns, and we worked long and we worked hard to get this spot, and you guys may be on top of the world, but we will take you on anywhere and we'll give you the damnedest fight of your life because our goal is those tag team belts. Instead of, oh, whenever you're ready, because it's the fucking Bloodline. Do they walk up to goddamn Brock Lesnar and say, hey, Brock, whenever you're fucking feeling froggy, lace your boots up and I'll put a ham sandwich on your back and starve you to death? Would you have sympathy for that fucking guy when he got his ass handed to him?
Well, I don't think it was that bad, but what you said for them was better than what they said. I agree with that.
Well, at least now, see, again, you proved my point.
What point is that?
I lost track of what it was, but you proved it. So anyway, and Solo made fun of him. Then Solo even said, you want to make an impact? And they all got a little tickle at that. How about right now? And then Aldous said, no, wait a minute. They're not, I don't want this to happen unless they're 100%. They've just had a match. And Shelley says, no, and this was correct for babyface psychology. No, we'll do it. While we got the chance, we'll do it. And the fans cheered and Aldous agreed. So again, I just thought that they were having Sabin be a little too cocky, like, well, he's just going to come in and waltz over these motherfuckers. And that was not a realistic appraisal of the situation until other people get involved. So, as Bobby Eaton used to say, well, you got a frog in your pocket? See, that proves my point, too.
What point does that prove?
A point that you can't talk tough if you only got a frog in your pocket. So then for the tag team title, they had the Tongas, Tama and Loa, Tonga, Loa. They both should have the same last name. But now, anyway, we'll go over it later. Against the Motor City Machine Guns. And they go into a four-way and they go to the break in like 30 seconds. I'm like, Newman, what the fuck? Stay with this. So finally they come back, and of course it's almost the end of the show, so they're moving at a pace, and they get some heat on Shelley, and then the Tongas miss a double splashy thingy, and a hooded figure jumps on Solo at ringside, and it's Jimmy Uso. And then Jimmy super kicks Jacob, and Solo stops him, and they're going to get Jimmy down, but Roman's music plays. And here comes Roman out and gets a big pop, and he Superman punches Jacob in the aisleway or whatever, and Jimmy gets on Solo, and Roman gets on Jacob, and guess what they did, Brian?
They fought off.
They fought off.
Do you have a problem with it?
It was a good fight off, but they fought off.
But it was necessary for what they tried to do, or that doesn't justify it?
Well, it was fairly necessary, but they're starting to get a little busy. I'm afraid that there's multiple hats being worn here, but nevertheless, the people are liking it. So who am I? It's not for me to say. So as they fought off, then the match is still going on. So Shelley tags Sabin, and Sabin makes a comeback. But Tama of the Tongas pulls the referee in front of Sabin, and they squash him. And then Loa kind of hits a spine buster on Sabin, and the Tongas immediately go out and get chairs. Because why wouldn't you, since the referee is down? But there's another hooded figure at ringside. Do they sell these hoodies at the merchandise stand?
I don't know. They have them at Nemo's Army Navy store. I don't know where else they have them.
Well, I think they ought to sell them at the merchandise stand. I guarantee you they will sell a ton of them because everybody will know if I put this on, I can just hop the rail and they'll let me. But this hooded figure is Yeet. It's Yeet now. Boom, and super kick and chair shot and spear on Tonga Loa. And then the machine guns hit their finish again on him. Boom, 1, 2, 3, and they're the new champions. And they did cook with that, and it was a great deal and an upset. And it as you said earlier, it put a lot of spotlight on the new kids in town. And then since Jay is in the ring and Jimmy comes to the ring, and they hug, and there's a big pop for that. They're back together. And then Roman is staring in the entranceway, staring at what's going on in the ring. And we fade to black. What a production. So we're forming the bloodline to reforming, I should say, the bloodline to face the Bizarro bloodline. Now with machine guns.
And, we keep hearing that there are other family members that have been signed, so you kind of wait for them to be introduced into this. You wait for Heyman to return. You wait for The Rock to return and have something to do with this. There's a lot going on. It's been years now of us talking about the bloodline like this.
I know. How much we were saying like a year and a half ago. How much longer can they keep this going like this? But, now a lot more family members may start stretching it. I think in the extended family, there's a few that they could, Ava. Maybe it's time for Ava to go on vacation or a 3-hour tour on a boat somewhere or whatever. But that's the extended family.
If you were The Rock, why would you even want her on TV? Like, I understand wanting to hook up your kid, but
to have them do something that they're obviously not
in any way
good at. Talented. I just wanted to kind of say good at. That would cover it. Be like kind of like no, ain't Fanny. Don't sing.
Well,
but anyway,
that was SmackDown.
Would you like to hear Aunt Fanny sing?
No, not now. No.
You would? Well, I tell you, she was great when she sang Far, Far Away, but nevertheless, if you want to hear any kind of music, you know what you need to do, Brian? You need to get the Raycon Everyday Wireless Earbuds. And it's not even limited to music. You can listen to podcasts. You can listen to talk radio. You can listen to the sounds of the earth, the nature sounds, the swishing and the winds and the surf and the beach and all that stuff, the things that people listen to when they go to bed. You can stick these things in your ears and you'll hear that all night. But if you, unfortunately, they've found in studies that if you listen to the waves crashing on the beach all night, you're going to piss the bed 75% of the time. So just bear that in mind. Have you found that, Brian? I was part of their survey.
I have no idea what you're talking about, so no.
If you listen all night in your sleep to the waves crashing onto the beach, there's a 75% chance you're going to piss the bed. You didn't know that was scientifically proven?
I don't know how scientific that is, but why don't we talk about Raycon?
Well, it was a non-clinical survey, so that means those people weren't sick. But nevertheless, they've got a deal And here's what they're doing. You've heard of Black Friday, you've heard of Cyber Monday. Well, this is Raycon every day. Right now, we're going to get you hooked up with a deal where you're going to get 30% off site-wide. It's an amazing offer. Everything that you want to buy, you will take 30% off of the entire total of this thing, which means you're going to save 30% of your money. And with that extra money that you have, they're just basically going to write you a check out for 30% of whatever you spend. That's what they're doing, where you could go and spend that 30% on something else and you'll still be even. It's amazing how they've done this bookkeeping. But the Raycon Everyday Earbuds come with the active noise cancellation, the 32-hour battery life, the amazing vibrant colors to match any skin tones so you don't have just white or black sticking out of your ears. Because the ink is black, the page is white, but together we learn to read and write. And when they mix those colors up, you can't see them because they're sticking in your ear and they look like your skin. And 30% off. Did I tell you about that, Brian?
Indeed.
You've gone to sleep on me.
Indeed. You told us about 30% off.
Yes, and Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee. So whatever you would like to listen to, I'd like to listen to you in both of my ears. I'm going to start pairing up the everyday earbuds with our sound apparatus instead of these dadgum headphones I've got on where I can only hear out of one side of them. Well, folks, don't have that problem. If you can't hear, and that's another thing, if you can't hear, you put the Raycons in and just turn them up all the way and you'll be able to hear them. Even if you're stone cold deaf, just turn them up all the way and it'll rattle something around in there. But go to buyraycon.com/JCE today. That's BUYRAYCON.com/JCE today. And you're going to get up to 30% off site-wide. Do it right now before you forget about it. Put us on pause and then come back to us. But up to 30% off site-wide. How much more can they do for people?
They're doing plenty, and you can get, once again, a great deal, 30% off site-wide with Raycon. One more time, what's that promo code?
It's up to 30% off.
What's that promo code, Jim?
Go to buyraycon.com/JCE today, right now, any minute, up to 30% off site-wide on whatever you want on their very wide site. You're going to get up to 30% off.
With Raycon.
Yes, that's who I was talking about. Well, now that we've established all that, Brian, what in the world is going on in the Arcadian Vanguard Network production house this week?
Another fine week of programs. I feel like I hear noise in the background now. I may have to clean that up. You can get all the information on all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard every day. Get your news, get your wrestling news for free. No clickbait, no paywall. Just the wrestling news from thewrestlingnews.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast. No opinion, no conjecture, just the actual news, ma'am. Thewrestlingnews.com. Also want to make mention
Have you ever thought of starting a podcast called Your Favorite Podcast? Because then whenever anybody looked up where they would find their favorite podcast, that would be the first thing that popped up.
That's an interesting thought we will talk about off air, I assume. But also want to make mention of some real-world news. Jim, they just announced Terry Garr has passed away.
What? No.
Yes.
How? Well, you're going to argue with me now? How old was she?
Oh, that's not on the screen currently. That was on the screen before, but I forgot what it was.
Well, at any age, that's terrible.
Terry Garr, I said, genius. Not Terry Bull.
No, or Terry Boulder, or Terry Bollea. You must have an enormous schwanzsticker. Well, I hate to hear that in the middle of your announcements of your shows.
Well, we always try to bring you the
Terry
news.
Garr.
We always try to bring you the latest news. And of course, Want to make mention of some of the other shows on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network?
Is Terry Garr on any of them?
Not that I'm aware of, but you never know.
You've lost your chance now.
Well, I want to make mention of a couple appearances that recently were made on shows by Greg Klein, talking about the Junkyard Dog and Morris Siegel and why they should be in a Hall of Fame. You can hear Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon at suawpod.com or wherever you find your favorite podcast, and Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam. He was on both shows. Hear the discussion, see if you agree or disagree with those shows. That's at McAdamPod.com. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Thank you, ma'am. Go through the archive. 605, she screamed for a long time there. 605pod.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast, The Mothership.
That's the first time you've ever said those words before. And it wasn't that bad in one ear.
That's the first time you said those words before.
Your statements today, they're going in one ear, but they're not coming out the other. But they're just going in the one ear because of my audio problem.
They'll get stuck in your head. That's what I want.
Well, it's rattling around now like a BB in a boxcar. But anyway, speaking of